Welcome to another edition of Helmets Off. I'm Scott Mitchell, the host, and Helmets Off is now on. We're going to Earl Thomas, the perennial Pro Bowl great player for the Seattle Seahawks, who has kind of been frustrated with his contract situation, and he held out in yesterday. He's been holding out, and of course he played yesterday. It was his first time back, and rather ironically, sadly, tragically, he was injured, and his injury is basically going to wipe out this season. On his way off the field, you could see it in that picture right there. You didn't see it in that picture, but right immediately after that shot, he sends a gesture. And there's been a lot of debate and speculation as to exactly where and who he was sending the gesture to. Now, I can tell you that when you're in that situation as a professional athlete and you get injured, you kind of lose all sense of like tact, or maybe this isn't a good idea because you're amped up already because of the game. You have all your adrenaline flowing, and then you get injured and you go into a completely different state. And a lot of times when you have the injury, you go, I know my season's over, and that's an extremely disappointing thing. And you could tell that this was very frustrating for Earl Thomas because he's been a great player and he feels like he should be paid more. So he's been trying to negotiate a situation to get a better contract, which I have no problem with, and I get it. And I get it because so many players who are, when they're doing well, things are great, and the team doesn't want to give them more money. But as soon as you start slipping, as soon as you go down a little bit, the teams are ready to cut you. They're ready to redo your salary. So I actually appreciate the fact that he wants to get paid what he's worth, and he should. And that's just the way it is. And sometimes, and ironically and tragically and sadly in his situation, this couldn't have come at a worse time for him. I understand that his injury, he'll actually be able to come back around the time of the Super Bowl, and he could be a really hot commodity. The challenging thing, though, with safeties is safeties are not the highest priority position in the pecking order of getting paid. It's really hard for a safety to really get paid. And so teams around the league are kind of setting a price on a safety, and that's pretty much what it's going to be. So if you're a guy like Earl Thomas and you want to get paid, it's going to be a tough thing to do. You end up probably going to a really bad team, someone who has a lot of cap space and probably doesn't have a lot of good players. And if that's okay with you, that's great. My advice is go to a really good team, continue to build your name and your cachet, and it will help you in the long run as your career extends and even after your career finishes. Be a much better. You don't want to be a really good player on a really bad team. That's just a miserable thing all around. So maybe take a little bit less money, and it's okay. You're still making, gosh, almost $10 million a year, which is not chump change. But it's just a sad situation just because of the timing of everything. He's held out. He finally comes back in and play, and he gets in his first game. And the one thing, the absolute worst thing he could have had happen was he got injured. And it was really kind of a freak injury. It looked more like him planting his foot on the ground in an awkward way, maybe to try to not get hit by the receiver, because it just felt like he kind of stopped abruptly. And of course, as fast as he was going with all that force, it's going to cause a problem. He is not, though, injured beyond just the bones. There's no ligament, any other damage, so that's a really good thing. I feel it's just an unfortunate thing. I know how mad you get when you get injured, and I also know that you want to strike when the iron's hot, and unfortunately for Earl Thomas, his iron just went ice cold with this injury. All right, Helmets Off is now off. You can text Helmets to 65537. Go to those social sites and like us, dial us in on your smartphone, and until then, we'll catch you soon.